Today I'm going to explain a different process from the one I follow normally in my own process. This process is very useful, especially for artists who tend to work in pencil in monochromatic pictures and that struggle to get their monochromatic pictures into color in a digital way as well as in an analog way. This process is a process that many digital artists use to get very realistic results because it allows us to have a very wide range of tones in our picture. But this process is not new at all, since we can find evidence of this same process as early as in the 15th century in the work of the Flemish artist Jan van Eyck. The technique and the process that he followed is known as a grisaille. In this process you paint an underpaint with a grayscale of all the elements in your picture to then overlay glazes of color over this grayscale. So how does this process look like? Let's go and see. So in this process we're learning how to go from this point to this point to a final picture with complete rendering. So the first thing I worked on was on my sketch. Normally my sketch is a very simple sketch, just some guidelines and then some simple details, but in this case the drawing stage took a lot longer. I tried to go a lot more in detail in this picture because I needed to have very precise features for the character. So for my rendering, the first thing I did is I decided where to use the values for my picture. In this case, I wanted the light to come from this area of the picture, so I made sure that everything over here was lighter, especially around the face and the hair. But if the light's coming from this area, most of these parts in the right side of the picture are going to be lighter. Of course, if I use this picture like this, it's going to look really dark, but when I use a background, you're going to notice how now all the light areas that were so dark before now look more in harmony with the rest of the picture. In this case, the aspect that I was going for was the aspect of a sculpture done in cement. So after I had my grayscale version, I duplicated this layer and created a colored version of the picture. So I simply use the same picture and I just color over it with mostly flat colors. But if you see, there were parts in which I needed to have some extra colors, like for example in the nose, in the lips. I included some extra color variation in different parts of her clothing. After having all of this, what I did was I used my grayscale version and turned it into soft light. So when I turn my picture into soft light, what you see is how the shading that I put in the grayscale transfers to the color picture. But I did something else. I duplicated this grayscale layer. I put it again. I was again in soft layer, in soft light, and I erased some parts to make sure that everything in this area was darker and everything over here was lighter. But to include even more light, I duplicated the layer again. I put it under the soft light pictures and I put it in color dodge. And you see how everything is going to pop more in the light area. After having all of this in place, I did some extra things to include extra realism and extra softness to different parts. So the first thing I did was that I deleted all of the black lines and made all of the lines similar to a color closer to the one that I was in that area. You see, for example, over here I have a lighter gray for the hair, or in some areas I have a darker or a lighter part according to where that part of the picture goes. This is a good base that I can use to work on to add extra details in this moment. So what I did is that I included different details. For example, I included a better background over here, but now this background calls for extra things. So I started including in different layers so you can see it better. I included darker accents in different areas. I made the gold a lot darker because it was too bright before. I included extra light accents. I included a secondary light coming from the background over here. I included that secondary light also on the sword, and I included some extra details on the face and some extra lights. And with that, basically we have our finished picture where you can see all of the details put in place, but always remembering that I started from a grayscale picture. Some things to include when you draw skin or portraits in general in your picture are the use of light. Remember that the skin is translucent, so normally you're going to see effects like this going from the light area to the dark area. You're going to see subsurface scarring, so you're going to see a lot of these details in different parts of the skin. For example, you're going to see the translucency in the ears and in different parts, for example the nose. You're also going to notice how the light from the bottom is going to be reflected on different parts, but normally these light parts are next to a darker, to a core shadow like this one. I hope this process inspires you to create more pieces. Even if you work in a grayscale, you can create amazing pieces. See you in the next video. Adios.